The sapphire sky above Aurora shimmered with three small suns as Arlen Voss stared out the panoramic window of his new apartment. Towering spires of gold and crystal reached into the sky, their surfaces flickering with data streams and holographic banners. It should have felt like triumph. After years of bureaucratic hell on Earth, he'd finally made it to Auroras, the jewel of interstellar development and the first joint Earth-exosapient colony to allow human immigration. But Arlen only felt a gnawing sense of unease. "Apartment," he said groggily as he padded barefoot across the warm floor. "Play news." A smooth voice responded, "Now streaming Auroras Live." A sleek news anchor, her tendrils twitching with polished precision, appeared on the wall screen. "Today marks the beginning of Phase 4 of the Species Continuity Accord," she said. "All compatible Earth participants will now begin integration procedures in accordance with Clause 17 of their visa contracts." Arlen blinked. "Clause 17? He, muttered, reaching for the tablet he'd only skimmed when he signed his visa forms. Before he could look further, the apartment's AI chimed. "Visitor approaching main portal." He frowned. "Display visitor." The wall shimmered to reveal a breathtaking sight. A humanoid figure with sleek, vibrant orange fur, deep green feline eyes, and large triangular ears perched atop her head. Her long tail curled behind her like a question mark. She wore a dark, form-fitting uniform with glowing accents that pulsated gently along her curves. She was already reaching up to unfasten the zipper at her throat. "What the hell?" Arlen whispered, hastily pulling on a shirt. The feline woman was still standing there when he ordered, "Admit visitor." The door slid open with a soft hiss. She stepped inside, graceful and self-assured, her tail swaying slowly behind her. Up close, her features were even more mesmerizing. Sharp but soft, predatory yet intelligent. Her voice purred when she spoke. "Arlen Voss, human male, age 29, Earth origin, visa classification XC4. You've been matched." "Matched?" Arlen echoed, his eyes darting toward her slowly descending zipper. "My name is Sari, Integration Officer, Species Continuity Accord Facilitator," she said, stepping closer. "Your reproductive compatibility rating is 96.8% with me. Your assigned partner." Arlen's back hit the wall. "I think you've got the wrong guy." Sari tilted her head. "No mistake. You signed the contract. Clause 17. Participation in the Interstellar Genetic Stabilization Program. Integration begins today." He swallowed hard. "Look, can we just talk about this over a drink or something?" She paused, her tail flicking once. "Social bonding is encouraged to ease initial discomfort. Acceptable compromise." Arlen exhaled slowly, still trying to process what was happening. "Okay then," he muttered. "Let's get that drink." The cafe was nestled on a sky bridge between two towers, a transparent walkway that allowed a full view of the sprawling, iridescent city beneath. Arlen sat stiffly at a curved table, clutching a glass of something pale green and fizzy. Sari sat across from him, her feline gaze unblinking as she sipped from a sleek crystal chalice of glowing nectar. He couldn't stop staring at her. Every time she blinked, slow, deliberate, it made his heart skip. Her orange fur was short and smooth with deeper stripes along her arms and hips, and her eyes gleamed with uncanny intelligence. She wasn't wearing a helmet or translator, yet she spoke flawless standard. Her tail, sleek and expressive, flicked idly across her lap. "So 6 matches?" Arlen repeated incredulously. Sari nodded. "Standard for your rating. Your immune resilience and neurological adaptability are highly desirable traits. You will contribute to the survival of our kind." "I thought this was just a work visa," Arlen muttered. "I didn't sign up to be breeding stock." "You did," she said calmly, pulling up a digital contract on her wrist device. Clause 17, paragraph 6. All male humans of reproductive age agree to participate as genetic diversity donors under the Continuity Accord. Arlen scrolled rapidly through the copy she sent to his tablet. Sure enough, it was there, buried in small print between technical jargon and cultural adjustment clauses. "This can't be legal," he said. It's binding, she replied. And if I say no? Her expression remained unchanged, but her ears twitched once. Then you will be deported to Earth, where the waiting list for reapplication is 24 Earth years. Your file will be flagged as non-compliant, affecting future migration privileges for all your citizens. Arland slumped back in his chair, stunned. Most humans adjust, Sari added gently, her voice softer. The process is not cruel. We adapt to your pace within reason. There is no coercion beyond the contract you signed. He didn't respond. He just sat there, watching the reflections of the three suns ripple through her eyes. After a long silence, he finally said, "Then why do I feel like I've just been drafted into something I don't understand?" Sari set down her chalice and looked directly at him. "Because you were." Later that evening, Arland returned to his apartment, the city lights outside his window shimmering like bioluminescent fireflies. He locked the door behind him, dimmed the lights, and dropped onto the couch with a groan. He barely had time to catch his breath before his tablet pinged again. Incoming. Message integration schedule confirmed. Assigned partner number 2. Arrival scheduled tomorrow, 10 year standard time. Designation, Illyra, genetic analyst. Arland stared at the screen. You've got to be kidding me. The knock on the door came precisely 10 seconds later. He froze. The AI chimed. Visitor at entrance portal. Display visitor, Arland muttered. This time, the figure on the screen was different. A smaller, more delicate-looking feline woman with deep violet fur and striking amber eyes. She was carrying a datapad and wearing what looked like a scientist's uniform. Arlen Voss, she said through the intercom. I am your next genetic match. Arland didn't move. The door chimed again. Arland, she called gently. I promise I'm just here to talk. With a heavy sigh, Arland stood up and walked to the door. He was beginning to realize that his problems were just getting started. Arland opened the door slowly, his shoulders tense and his breath shallow. Illyra stepped inside, her movements fluid and cautious, as though she could sense the fine edge. He balanced on. She was smaller than Sari, more compact and wiry, with her deep violet fur catching the overhead light like silk. Her tail flicked once in acknowledgement, before she turned to him with an expression that looked almost apologetic. Thank you for not making me wait, she said, her voice low and steady. I know this is overwhelming. Arland crossed his arms. Understatement of the century. Illyra gave a short nod, clearly expecting resistance. I'm not here to initiate anything physical. I specialize in analyzing compatibility and genetic alignment. This is purely informational for now. For now, Arland echoed, already regretting opening the door. She gestured to the couch. May I sit? He gave a tight shrug. Sure, why not? Everyone else seems to think they own the place. Illyra took a seat with practiced elegance, pulling her datapad into her lap. I reviewed your genetic matrix. There's an anomaly, specifically in your neuroimmune coding. It's rare even among humans. You've shown resistance to several diseases and adaptive response rates far beyond the baseline. Arland sat opposite her, brow furrowed. So what? I don't get the flu, and now I'm expected to father half the planet? Illyra hesitated. It's more than that. Your DNA doesn't just resist mutation, it repairs it. Rapidly, efficiently, that's unheard of. He scoffed. So what are you saying, I'm some kind of miracle cure? In a sense, yes, she said. There's more at stake than you've been told. Arland narrowed his eyes. Let me guess. There's a secret? Some reason all this is happening and nobody bothered to tell the guy at the center of it? Illyra's ears flattened slightly in what might have been guilt. The continuity accord was built around survival. The Oran species is facing something more serious than low birth rates. The genetic degradation runs deep. Generations of selective breeding, cloning, and gene therapy have created instability. Your DNA could be the stabilizing factor. And you expect me to be okay with that? Arland said, his voice rising. No, Illyra said softly. I expect you to feel trapped, but I also know there's a way through this that doesn't involve coercion. Arland leaned forward. I'm listening. She tapped her pad, then slid it across the table to him. There's a renegotiation clause buried in the original accord, Clause 17, subsection E. It allows for alternate forms of contribution when mutual consent cannot be obtained through standard protocols. No one talks about it because it threatens the efficiency of the program. Arlen's eyes widened. So I can opt out? With conditions, Illyra confirmed. But it's a start, and you won't be alone. He looked at her skeptically. Why are you telling me this? Illyra folded her hands in her lap. Because I don't want to see another unwilling participant forced into something they never chose. And because I've seen what happens when people try to resist without a plan. A quiet buzz filled the air. Arlen's tablet vibrated again. Incoming message. Sorry, Keth. Additional compatibility session requested. Location. Sector 14 Training Dome. Time. 1800 hours. Mandatory. He looked up at Illyra, heart sinking. She's not going to give me a break, is she? No, Illyra said calmly, because Sari isn't just your assigned match. She's one of the program architects. Arlen's stomach dropped. She was assigned to you, Illyra continued, because your genetic profile is too important to risk failure. She'll push, and if you don't push back the right way, she'll escalate. Arland ran a hand through his hair. This keeps getting worse. Illyra stood. Then let's make it better. Come to the records annex tomorrow. I'll show you everything they're hiding. The clauses, the council's votes, the dissenting voices. If you still want out after that, I'll help you. He looked at her, really looked. This wasn't manipulation, not like before. Illyra didn't want to control him. She wanted him to choose. I'll be there, he said quietly. She smiled, a small flicker of something warm and real. Good. Then she was gone, and Arland had just a few hours to prepare for another session with the woman who might just see him as her species' last chance for survival. The training dome was nothing like Arland had expected. Towering and hollow, it resembled a fusion of a sports arena and an ancient amphitheater, its curved metallic ribs arching upward into a translucent ceiling that let the pale moons of Aurelia spill cold light across the floor. Holographic trees flickered to life in clusters, and a mist curled around artificial terrain meant to simulate an outdoor environment. Sari stood in the center. She had changed, not just in attire, though her form-fitting black bodysuit hugged every curve of her athletic figure, but in her demeanor. The smirk was gone, the teasing edge replaced by something sterner, calculating. There was a sword sheathed across her back, and her amber eyes tracked him like a hawk eyeing a wounded rabbit. You came, she said simply. I got a message saying it was mandatory, Arland replied, stepping into the arena with an unsteady breath. Didn't really feel like I had a choice. Then at least you're learning how things work here. Her voice echoed off the walls, amplified by the dome's acoustics. Is this supposed to be another compatibility exercise? Arland asked, glancing around the simulated wilderness. You want me to spar with you? Wrestle until we fall into some kind of primal bonding ritual? She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. No, this is about trust and resistance. That didn't make him feel any better. She drew her sword. Not a ceremonial weapon, but a real humming arc blade with a crackling energy filament lining its edge. Oran bonds are forged through trial, through conflict, she said. It's how we've survived. We don't just select mates for softness. We choose strength. Arlen's voice turned sharp. And what if I don't want to be chosen at all? Sari's eyes narrowed. Then you'd better make that clear. Prove that you're unbreakable. Before he could protest, she lunged. He ducked just in time, the blade singing as it passed over his head. He scrambled backward, tripping over synthetic roots, heart pounding as adrenaline surged. You're insane, he yelled. She stalked forward. Fight me, or yield. Those are your choices. Arland grabbed a fallen branch, part of the simulation but solid enough, and swung it instinctively, She batted it aside with ease, sweeping his legs. He hit the ground hard, groaning. The air punched from his lungs. Sari loomed over him. You think this is just about mating? About desire? This is about survival. My people have burned through every alliance, every adaptation, every artificial solution. You're not a man anymore, Arland. You're the fire we've been looking for. He spat blood onto the floor. Then maybe your people don't deserve to survive. For a heartbeat, silence. Sari's grip on the sword loosened. You sound like me, she murmured. Arland blinked. What? She stepped back. Before they chose me. Before I learned the truth. The simulation faded around them, revealing not trees, but a sterile chamber with observation nodes blinking red. She sheathed her weapon and turned her back. You think I want this? She asked quietly. You think I wanted to be assigned to a human? I spent most of my life training to command fleets to rewrite our future with strength. Instead, they handed me to a stranger and told me to smile. Arland sat up, chest heaving. So why do it? She turned, finally showing the cracks in her armor. Because the alternative is extinction, and because someone has to carry the burden. Arland stared at her. For the first time he saw the woman beneath the orders, the weight on her shoulders, the frustration, the loneliness. You're not as heartless as you pretend to be, he muttered. And you're not as helpless as you act, she shot back. He gave a weak laugh. Great, so we're both liars. Sari extended a hand. He hesitated, then took it. The dome faded to black. Tomorrow, he'd see Ilera, learn what the Accord truly hid. But tonight, in that shared moment of exhaustion and anger, something began to shift between them. Neither of them knew if it would be love, loyalty, or rebellion. But it would be real. The following morning, Arland stood before the mirror doors of the Accord archives, the glass etched with symbols in both Terran and Oran script. He barely slept the night before. Sari hadn't said another word after their match, simply disappearing into the shadows of the dome. But something had changed, not in her demeanor. She was still sharp, proud, dangerous, but in her eyes when they locked onto his, there was no longer a hunger to dominate. There was understanding. The archives opened with a hiss. Inside, Ilera awaited, seated before a massive crystalline interface pulsing with faint blue light. Her white robes made her seem even more fragile in the sterile room, but Arland knew better now. Fragility wasn't the same as weakness. You came, she said softly, her voice echoing. I was told I'm finally being trusted, he replied. Figured I might as well find out what that actually means. Ilera gestured to a seat beside her. This isn't going to be easy, but you deserve the truth. As Arland sat, the crystal console rippled to life, projecting thousands of interconnected nodes, a sprawling map of data, politics, DNA strands, and sealed protocols. At the heart of it all pulsed a single glowing name, Aurelian Reproductive. Accord, Clause 17. The original Accord, Ilera began, was designed as a trade, resources and protection from your world in exchange for genetic salvation for ours. Arland frowned. Genetic salvation? Our species, she continued, has long suffered the price of its own advancement. Cloning, selective eugenics, and generational trauma have left us biologically unstable. Most Orans can no longer produce offspring without mutation or collapse. We've engineered solutions, but all of them are temporary. Artificial wombs, gene sequencing, patches, not cures. And you think humans are the fix? He asked, stunned. Not all humans, Ilera said. You, specifically. Your DNA carries a rare compatibility signature, not just reproductive, but regenerative, evolutionary. Arland blinked. So this whole thing, Sari, the dome, the bonding trials, it was never just cultural, it's scientific and political. Ilera admitted. Your pairing was arranged by the High Genome Council. Sari knew, at least enough to resent it. He stood, backing away from the projection. So I'm not a diplomat. I'm a damn breeding experiment. No, she said, rising to meet his eyes. You're more than that. You're a key to stabilizing two species, to rewriting what the Accord means. Sari isn't just your match. She's the only one strong enough to carry that burden alongside you. Arlen turned away, his hands trembling. So what happens if I say no? Ilera paused. Then the Accord collapses, the trials end, Sari will be reassigned, the war factions will resume power, and this planet, my people, will descend into extinction or chaos. And if I say yes? His voice was hollow. Then you stay. You bond with Sari and you help us save what's left. He didn't respond. He just stared into the crystal, watching his own image reflect between Orin symbols and DNA threads. Everything had changed. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was part of something much bigger. But choice still lingered in the air, heavy, impossible, and entirely his to make. The sun dipped low over the horizon of Zephyro, casting an amber glow across the city's silver towers and sky bridges. From a balcony high atop the Accord housing complex, Arlen stood unmoving. The wind tugged at his loose tunic, but his thoughts were locked inward. He had a decision to make. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. I was told you learned the truth. Sari's voice was quiet, but held a strength that always seemed to resonate deeper than her words alone. About what you are to them. What we are to each other. Arlen turned. She stood with arms crossed, tail swaying slowly, her orange, fur catching the light like molten gold. For once she wasn't in ceremonial armor or testing him with riddles or challenges. She looked open, vulnerable. I'm not angry, he said. Not exactly, just used. Sari nodded. You were, so was I. He frowned. Wait, what? I didn't choose. You either? She continued, stepping closer. When I saw your profile, I protested. I thought they were giving me another fragile outsider. One more soft, wide-eyed human trying to climb ladders through mating contracts. But? Arlen asked. Sari met his eyes. But then you didn't run. You challenged me. You bled. You yelled at me when others would have begged. And you didn't pretend to understand. You listened. She paused. And then you stayed. They stood close now, the tension between them no longer sharp and adversarial but soft, like the silence that follows a storm. Everything they've done, Arlen said, the manipulation, the contracts, none of that just goes away. It's not fixed by a kiss or a speech. No, Sari agreed, but it starts with something real, something chosen. She extended a hand, clawed, fingers curled slightly in invitation. I don't need you to save our people, not alone. I need you to stand next to me through what comes next. Arlen looked at her hand, then up at her eyes, fierce, unapologetic, loyal. He stepped forward and took it. The connection was instant, like static snapping between their palms, something raw and undeniable. At that moment, the door to the balcony opened. It was Ilera. Her normally composed expression showed something close to panic. They've accelerated the vote, she said. The High Council meets tonight. Sari cursed under her breath. It's too soon. We're not ready. They're counting on that, Ilera said grimly. Varial's faction is pushing for emergency powers. If the vote passes, the military takes over. No more trials, no more diplomacy. Just extraction and breeding mandates. Arlen's stomach dropped. How long do we have? Ilera hesitated. 3 hours. Sari's grip on his hand tightened. We don't have time to play by their rules anymore, she said. Arlen nodded, a sense of grim determination blooming in his chest. Then let's change the rules. The underground halls of Zephyro's civic dome echoed with hurried footsteps as Sari, Arlen, and Ilera pushed through the winding corridors. Ilera led them past access terminals and security posts with forged credentials and subtle flicks of her data bracelet. The closer they got to the central chamber, the more tension crackled in the air. Each corner they turned felt like it might be the last before discovery. They'll be starting with procedural motions first, Ilera whispered, checking the time display embedded in her sleeve. We can still make it to the floor before the vote begins. But if we're caught without authorization, they'll make us vanish, Sari finished. I've seen it happen, quietly, with no records. Arlen followed in silence, digesting the weight of what they were walking into. His entire life had been spent staying out of the spotlight, fitting in, avoiding conflict. And now he was about to stand in front of an alien government and speak against the military complex of an empire. But every time doubt crept in, he thought of Sari's eyes, the fire behind them when she spoke of choice, of truth, and he kept moving. As they reached the chamber staging hall, Ilera pulled them into a darkened alcove beside a row of service elevators. She tapped a sequence into a recessed panel and a hidden console flickered to life. This gets you access to the platform floor, she said. Security cameras will be looped for 90 seconds. That's your window to appear as if you were always supposed to be there. Wait, Arlen said, frowning. What about you? I'm going to the media conduit, Ilera said, her expression grim. Even if the council ignores your words, we're ensuring every citizen on this planet hears them. Sari touched her shoulder. You'll be marked for treason. Ilera managed a thin smile. I already was. I'm just making it official now. With a nod, she turned and vanished down another corridor. Sari faced Arlen. Once we're out there, they'll try to cut you off. You have to be loud, honest. Don't speak to the politicians, speak to the people listening. Arlen stepped into the lift with her, breath tight in his lungs. I never wanted any of this. I didn't either, she said. But now it's ours. The lift surged upward. When the doors opened, they stepped out onto the council floor. An enormous circular chamber wreathed in shifting light and layered balconies filled with dignitaries. At the center, a crystalline platform hovered above an endless drop, surrounded by luminescent glyphs and towering statues of Aurelian ancestors. Murmurs filled the air as the council elder paused the proceedings, eyes locking on Arlen and Sari's sudden entrance. A high-ranking military official stood. This is a violation of security protocol. No, Sari's cutting voice amplified by the platform. This is an emergency appeal, sanctioned under Clause 17 of interspecies law, right to testimonial interruption. The elder's ancient face wrinkled with surprise. Clause 17 has not been invoked in over a century. It is today, Sari said, stepping aside to reveal Arlen. By a man whose body and future were signed away without his knowledge. A murmur rippled through the hall. Arlen stepped forward, heart hammering in his chest. Cameras turned toward him, feathery drones buzzed overhead, broadcasting across the capital. He took a breath. My name is Arlen Varick. I came here for opportunity, not to be turned into breeding stock. I was matched without consent, bound by a contract buried in legal obscurity, and told that my body belonged to a government I barely understood. There was movement in the upper gallery, Varial rising to protest, but the elder lifted a hand. Let him speak, Arlen continued, voice steadier now. I know your species is dying. I've seen the data, and I want to help, but not this way. Not with coercion, not with secrecy, not by using people as tools. He glanced toward Sari, whose golden eyes never wavered from his. You say my DNA is the key to your future? Then let me give it freely. Let me be part of the cure, but on my terms. You want salvation? Build it with consent, not chains. Silence followed. Then, slowly, applause began. Soft at first, then swelling from the edges of the chamber. Not from council members, but from aides, techs, and guests, the people. Varial's expression darkened. This is a dangerous precedent. No, the elder cut in, voice thunderous. This is a new precedent. The council floor buzzed with energy. Something seismic had shifted, not just in the chamber, but in the mood of the city beyond. Sari could feel it in the air like the scent of a coming storm. Eyes once cold and indifferent now lingered on Arlen with curiosity, some even with admiration. Others, like Varial's, burned with fury. The elder stood slowly, placing both hands on the edge of his speaking podium. Let the council note that The man known as Arlen Varick has invoked Clause 17 and submitted a formal appeal regarding his forced conscription under the Reproductive Initiative. This body will reconvene in 2 hours to vote on the suspension of the initiative pending investigation. Gasps rippled across the chamber. Varial lunged forward. "You can't just—" "I can," the elder said sharply, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "This clause was written for moments like this, when the moral code of our empire hangs in balance." Varial's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. Sari knew he was calculating. He wouldn't lose control, not here, not yet. As the meeting adjourned, Sari reached for Arlen's arm, pulling him gently off the platform. "We need to go." That speech lit a fire, but it also painted a target on your back. They retreated through back corridors where Alara was waiting near the maintenance tunnels, breathless and wide-eyed. "It's spreading already," she said. "Social feeds, encrypted relays, even the outer colonies are talking about you, Arlen." "They'll come for me now," he said. "Won't they?" "They'll try," Sari said, "but not if we stay ahead of them." Behind them, alarms blared. Soft at first, then louder. Alara turned toward a nearby panel. "Emergency lockdown of the Civic Dome. They've activated Protocol Echo." "Meaning?" Arlen asked. "Meaning someone up there doesn't care about the Council's rules anymore." A sudden explosion rocked the corridor. The floor trembled as smoke burst through the northern hall, followed by shouts and the sound of heavy boots. "Run!" Sari shouted. They dashed into the lower passages, the lights flickering around them. Arlen stumbled over a step, caught by Sari's grip. Alara led them through a maintenance shaft just before a security patrol stormed through the hall. They'd been in seconds before. Panting, they emerged in the lower districts where the air was thick with tension. Holograms of Arlen's speech were already flashing on city walls, hijacked by citizens spreading the message. His words looped again and again. "Build it with consent, not chains." A cloaked figure met them near an old docking terminal, an ally of Sari's from her rebel days. "The underground safe house is ready," the man said, "but you're going to want to see this first." He activated a portable screen. The image was shaky, obviously recorded by someone in hiding. It showed Varial, flanked by soldiers, speaking to a group of military leaders. "If the Council overturns the initiative, we lose everything. Resources, alliances, control. The project must survive. If that means eliminating the instigator, so be it." Arlen's image was shown on the display, his face, eyes determined, voice passionate. Sari looked at Alara, then back at Arlen. "This is bigger than just a contract. Now," she said, "you've become a symbol." "And symbols," Alara added grimly, "have a way of getting killed." The safe house was little more than a hollowed-out sector beneath the old tram grid, abandoned, unstable, and forgotten by most. But for Sari, it was home, a place where rebels once whispered of change beneath the Empire's notice. Arlen sat on a crate, still catching his breath, his shirt clinging to sweat-soaked skin. "They really want me dead that badly?" Sari knelt beside him, dipping a cloth into a bowl of water before dabbing his forehead. "You're a threat to their order now. You didn't just break protocol, you shattered the illusion that it was unbreakable." Alara adjusted the screen again, pulling up intercepted chatter from inside the initiative's command base. "Varial's issued a shadow order. No official military movement, just hired ghosts. They're sending assassins after you." Sari's fingers stiffened around the cloth. Varial was always the sword to kill in silence. If he's desperate enough to act without Council approval, that means our momentum is working. Arlen stared down at the concrete. "You said before that there were others like me, others who didn't agree. Can they help us?" Sari stood. "Some. Not all. Most are too afraid. But there's one who might listen." She opened a hidden locker and retrieved a slim silver device. It hummed with stored credentials and encrypted contacts. With a few taps, a face appeared on the screen. Elder Rennick, a high-ranking official who had remained conspicuously silent during the council hearing. Sari sent a single message. "Clause 17 has been invoked. We have proof of corruption. We need your help. They waited. Seconds turned to minutes. Then finally, a reply. Meet me in Sector D12 at dawn. Come alone. Sari's mouth tightened. It's either a trap or a lifeline. I'll go, Arlen said immediately. Not alone, Elara said. You're too valuable now. No, Sari interrupted. If it is a trap, we can't risk all of us. I'll take him. As dawn crept through the broken glass of the ruined tunnels, Sari and Arlen made their way through the lower levels of the city. Shadows lingered at the edges of the alleys, and even the air felt like it held its breath. D12 was a hollow sector, an old manufacturing zone turned dead zone after a reactor collapsed a decade earlier. No cameras, no patrols, only rust, ash, and silence. They stepped into the designate.